Interview with Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi was cancelled by the CNN journalist, Christiane Amanpour, after Iranian president asked her to wear a headscarf during their meeting in New York. This was the first ever visit on U.S. soil by Ebrahim Raisi. He was in New York for UN General Assembly. Amanpour told no previous presidents have ever made such request for an interview outside Iran. She was told by President's aide that it was due to the current situation in Iran. Women journalists often go through such situations when interviewing officials while they work in Iran, but the rules do not apply in New York. The Iran officials have accepted the rule does not apply outside Iran, and both have respected the regulation. Amanpour's photo with the empty chair, where Raisi would have sat for the interview, was posted on Twitter. Some on social media responded by posting her interview with Taliban representative while wearing a headscarf. There is a similarity between both governments, whether they accept or not. Some Taliban are more strict and do not even want to be seen in a single image with a woman, but some are less strict and understand the necessity of international politics. It seems like Afghanistan is taking a step forward whereas Iran is going one step back. Mr. Raisi was elected in 2021 from the Combatant Clergy Association, which is not even considered a party but a direct arm of the clergy regime of Iran. Raisi signed an order to enforce new laws, especially to monitor and fine unveiled women, which includes counseling and a mandatory prison sentence for the women who questioned or protested against the hijab on social media. The restrictions, instead of smothering the voice, rose it up with hundreds of women protesting online. But after the unfortunate incident of Ms. Amini's death, women started posting pictures without headscarves as a protest. Each day the protests intensified as people started to gather into the streets and burning their headscarves, and some even cutting their long hair during the protestation. When we talk about Iran, it looks something like this, but if you see the Iranian cities these days, you will see thousands out in the streets. The roads show the picture of a war zone where thousands of protesters have come out with anti-governmental narrative. The death of a young woman detained by the morality police called Gasht Irshad, which literally means guidance patrols, has triggered a massive regime change campaign throughout Iran. Mahsa Amini, who was only 22, went into coma hours after morality police Gasht Irshad detained her for not wearing the headscarf right. The police are being accused of beating up Mahsa Amini with a baton. The police deny all the allegations about the mistreatment and call the sudden death merely an incident of heart failure. A layer of chaos was spread soon after the news broke, and the protesters, in thousands, mostly young students, have come out protesting against the police. Reports say 17 at least have died during the protests that reached 80 other cities in just a week. Another woman in Tehran was detained for wearing boots that were too erotic for men. In an interview she said, "I called my husband and asked him to bring me a pair of shoes. I then signed a paper admitting I was wearing inappropriate clothing, and I now have a criminal record." During the funeral of Ms. Amini's funeral in the city of Saqqez, women started removing the headscarves and waved them in the air. Ms. Amini's father Amjad was not allowed by the authorities to see his daughter's body. He was only allowed to see the feet and face of the victim, and the rest was wrapped for burial. He tells the signs of bruises on her feet, but the doctors who examined have not answered his request. The Interior Ministry of Iran and Tehran's Director of Forensic Medicine claim Mr. Amini had pre-existing health problems, but her father Amjad denies it and said they are lying. She has not been to any hospital at all in the past 22 years, other than for a few cold-related sicknesses. The protests began at the universities and colleges in Tehran, with Protestants shouting "Death to the dictator" directed at the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. The protest has spread like wildfire all over the country. Rana Rahimpour, who is an Iranian-British journalist and works for BBC, said, "Now, we have seen so many men joining in, and it has moved on from a protest against the compulsory hijab. It's now against the whole existence of the Islamic Republic. This is most serious challenge to the Islamic leadership of Iran that we have seen here in recent years." Iran's most sacred city of Mashhad showed a woman standing up in front of a police car and shouting, "We don't want an Islamic Republic." Riot police with plainclothes security forces were called by the government to attack protesters with the tear gas. The protesters reacted by firing the waste containers and blocking the access to the streets while shouting slogans against Supreme Leader more vigorous than before. The riot police went door to door to look for protesters and arrested them. Iran Human Rights reported 31 civilians killed in just a week. Iranian official denied the allegation on security forces and puts the blame on the protesters by calling them rioters. The Iran government claims 31 who died were members of the security killed by the rioters. Wi-Fi services and mobile phone connections are cut off in Tehran, with WhatsApp and Instagram blocked by the government. Electronic media is strictly observed by the government and only runs censored and vague news. The supreme leader looks like a monarch from history who wants to tell the people what they want to wear. The women human rights violation have peaked ever since the Islamic Revolution came into existence in 1979. Their rules and regulations are outdated and non-Islamic. Their rules serve one purpose, and that is to serve their supreme leader Khamenei. The culturally rich Iran with colorful history looks like a safe haven for extremists only. The human rights violations in Iran are large in number and keep adding up on a yearly basis. The Iranian population has rejected the supreme leader many times, but the stubborn misogynist Khamenei sticks to the outdated, unresearched and vicious ideas and implement in the name of Islam. The supreme leader has glued himself to the chair that serves the highest political and religious authority as long as he lives. After his death, his successor will come forth with same perks, and it goes on and on. The word of the supreme leader is considered law, and most of the laws are of suppressing the people. The Iranian youth have realized Iran needs another revolution because democracy has failed the country. The electoral system is rigged as they keep bringing new faces, but the real face behind the misogyny is not Islam or the Iran culture. It is the supreme leader that is the head of the snake, and he has to go.